sexual violence?
Not this time. That sod suddenly turned on me.
Look, the officer's already admitted that your head hit the wall when you tried to run away.
That's his side of it, isn't it?
I'm sure you're going to tell me your side of it.
I'm going to do more than that, mate. I'm going to complain, official. Against the wall.
We've sent for the doctor already.
About time, too. I'm bleeding like a stuck pig.
I understand you tried to run away.
Look, mate, what do I want to do that for? You done nothing? You big pig!
Do you see?
I didn't mean to put you through the misery.
We can't touch anybody, Cullen. If they strike us...
This is Paul Williams, an extremely talented American singer-songwriter. Singer-songwriter? 3 please, Dave, 19 past 5.
It was Jackie's father, Rob, who found the body when he returned home from the pub just after midnight. Naked on the sitting room floor. He didn't know where to look. She'd been cut so many times. The room painted in blood with her handprints on the wall. And she'd fought hard for her life. Her face had been smashed to a pulp. We barely recognized her. Laying on her stomach, she'd been subjected to rape and brutality. And although Jacqui had an older sister, she'd moved out about a year earlier. Her mother had also left. And Jacqui was his baby. And it was all he had. And she was gone. And he tried to hug her. But rigor mortis had already set in. And she was too stiff. Made a cracking noise when he pulled her up towards him. Like he had broken her. When cops arrived at the scene, they thought Jackie's father had also been injured. His face was covered in blood from where he'd been kissing his daughter's forehead. And although not fashionable for men at the time, he was weeping. Some may even say sobbing, crying to his God, asking why. And I guess the cops were probably asking the same thing. Why? In 1975, Great Britain, unemployment was at an all-time high, with women needing to take to the streets to feed their family. A pint of beer at your local pub was about 20p, and a pack of cigarettes the same. And your average house price was £1,600. It was also known as the decade of strikes for postal workers, miners, and dustmen. And the voting age had been moved from 21 to 18, as if that could satisfy the restless youth. And although domestic abuse was starting to get recognized in Britain, it was still a year away from being considered a crime. When cops read Jackie's diary, the one that no one was supposed to read, they found out that she'd just been dumped by her boyfriend, and she was upset about it, and cried a lot. And she figured it because she was so poor, and she dressed like it. Sure, she tried to make her sister's hand-me-downs look stylish, but it wasn't working. Poverty can't be disguised. She also wrote that she was in love with Donny Osmond, but she knew their love would always be unrequited, because he was a Mormon, and her daddy wouldn't let her convert. They also read something else interesting. Her aunt had broken up with her boyfriend, and now was hiding out from him, and the police were protecting her. And in her own words, he was a fucking nutter. And cops figured this unhinged individual may be a person of interest. When cops typed the name in the diary into their database, 28-year-old Dennis McGrory, he had a rap sheet longer than a retard's tongue licking his own piss off the floor. Although I'm not sure why he'd want to do that. But I guess that's why he's retarded. And when they picked up Des, as he was known as, he denied it all. Said he'd been at the pub with his mates. When cops inquired how he got all knocked up and had scratches on him, he said he'd been jumped by a bunch of racially motivated packies. His words, not mine. But cops weren't buying it, and they arrested him for the rape and the murder of Jacqui Montgomery. But once they got Dirty Des into court, the judge weren't buying it. And he said the prosecutors didn't have enough evidence to make it stick, and they had to cut Des McGrory loose. And as he walked out, he laughed, right in Jackie's family's faces, having the knowledge, because of Britain's double jeopardy laws, he could never go to trial for Jackie's murder again. And after a year or two, case went cold, with family members believing that it would never be heard from again. But it was 50 years later that I guess cops, who had a budget to spend, they decided to run some of the old jizz samples that I guess had been gathering dust through the jizz detector. And they found a sample that they'd taken from Jackie's mouth all those years ago. And bingo, up came one name. Yeah, Des McGrory, the guy who thought that he would never, ever be caught. But thanks to jeopardy laws being changed, under extraordinary circumstances, they can revisit a crime. It turned out Des, well, he hadn't changed over the years. Hurting, brutalizing women. I guess a leopard never changes its spots. It turned out that Des came around that night threatening Jacqui to find out where her aunt was, so she could pay her a visit. And Jacqui kept the secret, but it cost her her life. Throughout the rape, the beating, she never said a word.
You have shown not one iota of remorse or compassion for Jacqui or Jackie's family, or for what you have done. We've heard that Jacqui enjoyed all the things 15-year-old girls would enjoy, listening to pop music from the like of Donny Osmond and David Cassidy, and she wanted a decent home life and someone to love her.
Old Dirty Des, he figured because he was an old man that he'd gotten away with it, and the rest of us were mugs. But nothing in this life is forever. Nothing.
Overworked. And he was sitting, I never took my eyes off him in that court, and he's sitting there going, I thought, he still denied it. He took us all through this court. He knew he'd done it. Why didn't he plead guilty and just, put out all our family through this?
Legion forever!